Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:32. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag for which it stands.
Chris is having connection problems, it looks like.
I think so.
Where's our fearless vice chair?
I'm just pulling up the agenda here. Make sure I have it on my other screen. All right. Hopefully Chris will be.
He'll be right back. His computer just died.
All right. Well, let's do the agenda review here. Any amendments?
I do not.
All right. If Chris has any, we'll let him chime in when he returns. Correspondence. Any public comment or anything to share from the board? Peter?
I would just like to thank Mr. Hartman and the staff for putting on such a wonderful graduation ceremony for the class of 2021. It was a really nice evening, and God blessed us with wonderful weather for it. I know it's always nerve-wracking trying to schedule an outdoor event like that, but it went off without a hitch, and a wonderful event. And after the ceremony, I realized that this class is going to be all right, and it wasn't because of the speeches, which were wonderful, or all the awards. Just two words that were said by one of the graduates as they took their diploma. They said, "Go Bills." I said, "You guys are going to be all right."
Sorry about that. My computer died. I thought it had more life than that. It took me a minute to find my charger, but okay. So agenda review. I don't have any items to review. Julie? No. Next up is correspondence and public comments. I'm not seeing anybody from the public here, so I think we're all set there. So first up, next up on our consent agenda is approval of meeting minutes from June 1st. I'd entertain a motion to accept those. Terry's the first. Devin's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the June 1st meeting minutes, raise your hand.
Chris, I'm going to abstain. I've read them. I don't disagree, and I know I can vote, but I'm going to abstain since I wasn't there.
So motion carries, let's see, be 7-0-1.
Chris, I'm abstaining as well because I wasn't there.
6-0-2.
And legally, we don't have to, I believe, but it's good practice for me.
Okay. So next on to presentations, and first up we have the Highgate Alumni Association plaque, and we have somebody here to present an idea for a plaque for the association.
Hi, my name is Mariette Messier. I should say Mariette Ferlin Messier. Ferlin probably rings a bell more for some people. And I actually just became a member of the Highgate Alumni Association 2 years ago, even though I graduated 51 years ago from Highgate High. And going through some material, we came across this spring that the association had lost its nonprofit status 10 years ago. And also that invalidated our federal ID number. And so the association is going to disband. We put out a vote to as many as 293 members that we could locate. And it was voted to disband and stuff. A suggestion was made about putting a monument in front of the old high school, the white building you call it. And I thought, number one, that's expensive. Number two, then they have to mow around it and stuff and the upkeep. So we came up with the idea of a plaque to put on the building. And Chris was telling me how the future of that building is unknown at this point. But that if something ever changed down the future, this plaque could be placed in the elementary school with a picture of the old building. And so that's what I've been going with that idea. And I did forward the email that I got for the makeup of the plaque. I don't know if any of you have received it. But
Julie, just a second. Julie, can you present that just for the camera? Thank you. Go ahead.
And so in coming up with the dates and stuff, it came to my attention, which I don't have too much of a recollection of it, but that white building not only housed the high school, but it also housed the elementary grades from 1941 to 1962. And so I said, well, we can't put a plaque saying the former home of the Highgate High School and not include the elementary grades and stuff. So that's why, we've done it this way. I've shown it to a few people. They like the idea. Just want to get the approval to be able to do this. We haven't ordered it yet. We're waiting for the approval and stuff. So any questions that I could answer on this?
Great idea.
That's what, because I hadn't been, I live in St. Albans now, but was up there a few weeks ago and I just walked around the old building. It's got a few changes from when it was the high school, but what we're hoping to do is to have like a plaque dedication ceremony, probably the weekend of August 14th, 15th. And if possible, have the school open so that people who come can go in and reminisce about, well, this used to be there. And I know things have changed, but they say the stairwells are still there and stuff. But it's been 51 years, so I'm sure there's going to be some changes and stuff. But we'd like to do something a little bit more than just stick the plaque on there and say, okay, we're done. We'd like to kind of get the community involved and interested in it and stuff. Have like and this will probably be our last association get together. People can still get together if they want, but the actual association will be disbanded and stuff.
Thank you. Is there any questions before I call for a motion? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to allow the Highgate Association Alumni Association to have a plaque made and with Yeshua's blessing, put it up on the wall or on the building.
So moved, Chris.
Don's the first. Jen's the second. Any discussion?
Is Steve there tonight at our meeting? Is Steve there?
He's on the phone, yes.
Did Steve want to make the motion? I may have jumped the gun.
I don't think it matters.
Okay, let's leave it as is then.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of allowing the Highgate Association to hang their plaque on the wall, raise your hand. Steve, can you yay or nay? I can't hear Steve, so what I'll have to do is go 8-0. Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we're just, I know with my old high school and stuff, I just thought it would be appropriate to have it remembered as that, you know, not the white building.
Right?
As it's known now, I guess, the white building.
Sure.
Hopefully it'll be, you know, something to, a historical thing that people can relate back to. And I know I was, somebody asked, well, what was the high school before 1941? And talking with Charlie Nye, he did say the old high school was next, when you're facing the building, right on the left of that building. And it was torn down. There are a few pictures of it and stuff, but not very, you know, not much information and stuff. So well, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hearing and letting you all know about what's happening on that plaque dedication ceremony and stuff. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Pierre, I see you raised your hand.
Mariette, before you leave, I just wanted to go down memory lane with you a little bit. I remember going to that white building as a second grader, and they built that new brick building, which is where the kids are in school today. So I was in third grade when it was a brand new school. I still remember going to that brick building and leaving the white building. And I eventually went back there for high school, but I did end up graduating from the Cisco. I guess I'm a little younger than you are.
Yep, a little bit.
But anyways, it does bring some memories, and I remembered it was 1963, and that, you know, I don't know why I remember that, but I do. So great
That's
memory.
what I want to verify, if it's 62 or 63 when
63 was when the brick building opened. That's when I
opened.
that was the first year I went there. Yeah, so 62 would be correct for the white building to be the end of the elementary school. So that would be correct.
Right. Okay. I just want to, you know, it's something I'm gonna just research and stuff. But I know I was trying to think. I started first and second grade at St. Anne's, and then we went to the public school after that. And I'm counting, and I'm figuring, wait a minute, I'm missing a couple years if we started in, you know. And so I called my sister Lise, and I said, so where did we go to school for a couple years? And she's in the white building. And I go, really? I don't remember that. I guess I was too little to remember that, but
yeah, I still remember it because in second grade, that was when the floor that we were on was leaning. The floor was like going downhill a little bit. That's what I remember about it, because I had gone from a nice flat, you know, floor and going to the second grade. So what the world is this about? So if you had wheels on your chair, you could have just rolled right down.
So, oh my goodness. So, well, hopefully the floors, maybe it's the same right now still anyhow, but who knows. But thank you.
Toby, I see you raised your hand. Oh, you're all set. Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
I hope you are able to put something together this summer. I know definitely my mother-in-law would be interested. So
Yeah. She was in there with us. So, thank you.
thank
Have
you.
a good evening.
You too. Okay, next up under presentations, we have conditions. I can't talk today. Ooh, be a rough night. And I believe we're going to have, I don't know, you're going to share them or?
Would you like me to hold them up?
I have them here, so I mean, I can.
Okay, I can do that. I'll do the share. You want me to begin with Mr. Palmer?
Sure.
All right. So you'll get a real one tomorrow.
So we have these plaques for Chris to start, Chris Palmer, who is assistant principal in Highgate from 2017 to 2021. In recognition of your outstanding contribution and dedicated service to the Highgate Elementary School in the Missisquoi Valley School District, the Missisquoi Valley School District School Board and colleagues want to present you this plaque. Thank you very much, Chris.
Chris, can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Okay, my internet is cutting in and out, so I'm going to use the efforts in to make sure that I say thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. And oh, there goes my internet.
We can hear you. Oh, he disappeared. Chris, just so you know that the Missisquoi Valley School District School Board and colleagues comes under the logo, and that just really shows that it's from us. When Chris comes back, we can let him say his thank you. Would you like me to put up the next one?
Sure. And this one, of course, is for Dina St. Amour. She was the principal in Swanton. She was there from 1986 to 2021. And this is in recognition of your outstanding contribution and dedicated service to the Swanton Elementary School and the Missisquoi Valley School District. Thank you very much for your service, and tough shoes to fill, for sure.
Thank you very much, Chris, and to the entire board. I appreciate that.
Oh, Chris is back. Let's see if you want to try again.
I'm really sorry about that, and I just wanted to say thank you for Highgate School and this community, and thank you so much, Chris and Julie.
Well, you're going to be missed an awful lot, Chris.
I will miss Highgate School dearly.
We have one more.
And this one is for somebody near and dear to the board, Purette Bouchard. This is an appreciation of your 35 years of outstanding dedication and service to the staff and students of the Franklin Northwest Supervisory Union and the Missisquoi Valley School District. Once again, I want to thank you very much. It's been I've known you for a very long time, and it's been great working with you at the board level too. People don't know, I pretty much grew up at Purette's house when I was a kid. I was friends with their son, so been a journey. Really good.
Yes, thank you very much. Chris and my son Mark were in the same class together, so they came over to my house, and The other one I knew when I was the secretary at the Franklin School was Joanne Johnston. I didn't say that last time. So she was another one of, I was a student while I was working there. So, and lots of great memories and very fond memories. One of the things I was thinking about that maybe not a lot of people could say, but this has been sort of like the job of my life. I mean, it's just like, who could ask for something better than being able to work in a school for as many years as I did, and then central office, I was able to work in human resources and help out a lot of teachers and get to know a lot of people doing that. And it's been a great job and a great journey, and I'm going to miss it.
Thank you, Pierrette.
So everybody will get actual real plaques this week. I promise. They're here.
That's the downfall of the virtual. It's really hard to hand them out. Terry, you're muted.
I thought I had it. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, but I also wondered if Dina wanted to say something because there was some connectivity after she got her award where she might not have said anything.
Thanks, Terry. No, all I wanted to say was, today brought back so many memories, and it's, I was joking because this is the first time that I won't have access to Swanton School, because even when I was in central office, I had my badge there. So it just feels really different to look back on the path that we've taken. And I'm just very appreciative for the great people that I've worked with in every aspect. And the support and the love, especially today, just really felt it. And it was nice that staff was together and laughing, and that just felt good. I'm sure Highgate and Franklin, you guys are feeling the same thing, just to have no mask on, to be able to hug and saying goodbye to those kids today. They've missed that too. So I sincerely just appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Dina. Any other comments for where we move on? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you very much. You all will be definitely missed. It's been a pleasure working with you over the years. I've gotten to know all of you. It's bittersweet. I wish you all the best, but sad to see you go at the same time. Okay, let's see. Next up for presentations, we have elementary administration updates. And fitting enough, Dina, you're up first.
Okay. Well, first of all, I wish I had learned this like 8 years ago, because I was always trying to remember stuff going on at school and write these reports myself. But now that I reach out to teachers, it's like flooded in. So it's there's a lot in there. People sent videos and things, but there was some really exciting things happening. So those are included. One of the big things is just to start off with Justina again. I joked when I said, she's getting into this party planning, but it is just amazing, as busy as things have been at the end of the year, people still found time to do this. And it just means the world to me. So she's been keeping the ship floating. And I think that the board just needs to realize what this lady is doing, with Julie right behind her. But I am retiring, which everyone knows. We lost Chrissy Longway, our office manager. We lost our art teacher, who is phenomenal. And she shared in our report about her mosaic project, thanks to Kosha. One of our special educators, who was our intensive needs special educators, is leaving us as well. And then the one we just found out about last week was our behavior specialist, who works in the Babcock building, who is Justina's right-hand lady, is also leaving us. So I sat by her every day. We got more news of people leaving, and she took it with stride. I don't think it's really hit her yet, but the professionalism and the composure that she is showing probably right now, covering up those tears and things, and she's going to be fine. It's just every time like a tree fell over, you know, somebody else went, it was like, oh my. But so the board is here, her staff is there, Chris is going to come in, and I do feel like things are going to be totally fine, because I think our staff has worked really hard. And I was thinking today, you know, we got through this year, we got through last year. That was a lot. I just feel like with the leadership coming in and the things in place, that Swanton is just really ready to take off. The merger's done. We're together now. And I'm feeling really hopeful and excited for that to happen. So that's just a big shout out to Justina. The other things, Jason's got all his summer plans, and that's kind of timed out to the minute with the work that's being done. The other update is Gianna Messier shared a website, and if you do get a chance to take a look at that, that would be awesome. Our arts programs between music, art, our PE program, all those UAs. Gianna had a really tough year this year. She worked incredibly hard because she couldn't have kids in person. And she tried to maintain this instrumental program as best she could. It would have been really easy for her to sit behind the scenes and almost hide, you know, because everybody else was working, doing remote. She didn't. This lady was incredible. She took the lead in her unified arts class. She worked diligently to get kids to come online and to do this. And then she took all this time to put together an incredible website so that kids, they couldn't do the regular petting zoo, which means when they try out instruments for the next year. So she created it in this awesome visual. And it's so incredibly well done. But I just have so much pride and admiration for her. And, you know, even when I was handing out her contract, she's like, oh, I got one. And I said, do you ever doubt that? And I think that, you know, our arts teachers, I forget that that's maybe always in the back of their mind. It's like, oh, you know, but I've never felt that. And I don't think any of our teachers have from the board, but it was just like, okay, we got to let these people know how special they are. So I really wanted to showcase that because I just think it's totally awesome. I left a list of people who were leaving and filling those positions. We did hire our last person last week, our special educator, and we were very fortunate to close that loop. Our pre-K classrooms did all of their screening. It was really, really hot outside the days they did it, and they were being really good, and they kept everything outside under a tent, but it was hot and those kids were sweating and family. So a big shout out to those teachers for doing that, especially outside. Sixth grade recognition, I thought was fabulous. I also shared that link with the board. As you know, we didn't have parents coming in, and as hard as that was, we did get the link out from Channel 15 really by the end of the day. I also mentioned Chrissy Longway took pictures of each kid with their teacher, pulled their mask down, they smiled. She ran to Walmart, and those were in kids' hands before they left. And the ceremony just felt a little less stressful for some of our kids. Walking up, one kid said, I'm kind of glad there's no parents here, just because sometimes the anxiety and the nerves that they have in front of so many people. So I really feel like our teachers and kids made the best of that situation. Again, not having parents there was hard, but I think the quick turnaround helped. We also were able to bring our VTVLC kids in with Jen Hines, and that just felt really good having those kids in the building. Summer send-off, Justina, once again, she made that happen. She has a really good plan for fun that day, from teachers to kids. She made it work this year, so we weren't mixing pods and kids were together, but it's a fun day. During that time, kids just get to have a good time. One little kid, you know, he lives right next to Chrissy, and he said, "Do you realize I get to come to school today and I don't have to do any work? Can you believe that?" And he was just like so excited about that. So it's those little things, and as Highgate and Franklin, you know, doing those things at the end of the year, it's a really nice celebration. But it's the organization behind it, and Justina's got it like that. So that was a great day. As I mentioned, the Mosaic project is completed. Our art students, Babcock building looks incredible. The color, the life, and the fact that the kids were all a part of that, I think was outstanding. Also mentioned our 6th grade recognition, thanking Justina and all the people who put together such a beautiful recognition last Thursday and then again today. And we had Step Up Day today, and it felt really, really good. Once again, our home study kids came in, many of them, and our VTVLC kids. So for those kids to walk into the building, get to see their peers and meet their new teachers, it just, you know, it just felt right. So even today, kind of ending on those notes, teachers will be back tomorrow. They're doing their round table conversations. A lot of them have to pack up and still move, but they've been really, really good about that. So I don't know, Justine, is there anything that you wanted to add? Okay, thank you.
I think you covered it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Dina, Justina, and Swan? Seeing none, thank you very much. And we'll move on to Yeshua and Highgate.
Great, thank you, Chris. So yeah, we certainly, you know, the hustle and bustle of the school year has suddenly ended, which is wild. It felt really, really busy. Then poof, kids are gone, and we're doing some fun in-service stuff together and preparing, you know, things, student profile sheets, what we call it. So collecting all of our writing portfolios and math scores and putting it all in files and sending it off to sending teachers. And, you know, teachers are meeting with, you know, teachers that they are sending kids to and receiving kids from. So that way they can get to know their students well and get prepared and thinking about all the things they want to get done before they leave for the summer. Definitely the send-off was just special. I think really Highgate doesn't do a lot to say goodbye, but all the staff line up on the sidewalk and just wave as the buses go. And just so excitement. Kids are waving back, bus drivers are honking horns, and it's just a nice wave, you know, excitingly going into the summer for them. We also were able to have a step-up day, which was really nice. So students were able to see the teacher they're going to, and it was really quick for contact tracing purposes. But it was still great because they at least got to experience it, be in the same room with the peers they're going to have next year and have a conversation with their teacher. I actually represented the one classroom teacher who was leaving because she couldn't be there, but she was virtually. So I set her up and was there with the kids, and they asked good questions. They wrote letters for her and read some of those, introducing themselves to her, which her name is Mallory Brown, who will be coming on the 4th grade team. So we're excited to have her joining us. We were also able to have graduation inside in the arena. I absolutely loved the event, even though we were very spread out with 8-foot square pods, 6 feet away from each other, and families bringing their own chairs. So certainly the most different graduation I've been to, but certainly it was really a great night. I think it was very focused on kids, and certainly me saying thank you for everyone that's helped us make this year successful, because the school could not do it alone. So I thought it was really a great night, and I do appreciate Jen, Steve, and Chris were all there. So I do appreciate you all being there at graduation to represent the school board. And some other things for today, we called it Palmerism Day. So as you all know, Chris is leaving, and so we had t-shirts made. And if people wanted to purchase one, they could. And they just had a bunch of, as I said, Palmerism. So just sayings that Chris said. And for example, rutabaga and quacktastic, you know, these things that he says on regularly. So it was really great to see that about 43 staff members purchased shirts. And what also was cool is that it's a mom in the community who has her own business, and we actually get them from her. So that was really great. And she, you know, did a really nice job with them, and she was very proud of them. They looked very good. So Chris came in surprisingly to a shirt sitting at his desk, and then he was wondering why everybody was randomly wearing these shirts until he saw them. And a suggestion was made today that maybe the first day of in-service is always called Palmerism Day. So maybe we'll make that happen. Also at in-service today, which was wonderful, is that Ernie Hemingway, Lisa Hess, and some of our veteran folks had a little ceremony today for David Roddy. As you all know, served on the school board for a very long time, and I didn't get to meet him, unfortunately, but sounds like he's an incredible human being. And people, just made some comments, and the family was there. And a nice stone was made to put out in front of the school from Lisa Hess's family. They have a business in Barrie. And so they were able to put that out there and have a nice ceremony today. So that was really wonderful. It was really a nice moment for the family. A good deal of the family members were there, including a couple of board members here tonight. So that was wonderful. We were able to have field days, which was an absolute lot of fun. It was the first time as a school that we were together outside, moving around in our pods. And that was, as I said, really exciting. I learned that the dunk tank is really, really exciting to kids. I did get the chance to go in the dunk tank, and a first grader actually got me in the water. I thought, I'll choose a grade that maybe they won't be able to hit me, but nope, they definitely did it, and that was oodles of fun for them. But it was, just a great event, because it really was the first time as a school we actually were together, even though we were eventually for lunch outside in our different pods, but we were still together, which was absolutely wonderful. It was great to see all of the kids and do the Tyler Place Awards, all that kind of stuff that we do at the end of the year. So that was wonderful. Certainly as a school, we're winding down with the school year, but ramping up with summer services. So we've kind of solidified everything, ESY tutoring, other tutoring, summer program, all the different things that happen at the school. So we're kind of getting ready for that as we kind of have a 2-week, 3-week break before that will all start up. And finally, with today, as I said, we just had a great in-service, a great potluck, which apparently Highgate staff really like a good potluck. There was a lot of good food there today. Julie can attest to that. But we got to say goodbye to some of our staff members who were leaving. And we also did have a retirement. Sue Drown, who has been a custodian for, I believe, 26 years, did retire. And we were able to have a nice quilt made for her. And, she came to the ceremony, had some food, got to mingle for a while, mask-free, which was amazing. But more importantly, while she was at the ceremony, we had signs made, retirement signs. And so a couple of folks were at her house actually putting those signs on her property. So when she came back from the ceremony, she had a little more love at her house. So that was nice. We got to honor folks that were not returning for next year. So altogether, it feels like a good ending of school. And we, of course, have in-service tomorrow, and that will be our final day until officially summer. And I don't know, Chris, is there anything, Chris Palmer, you'd like to add?
No, thanks, Yeshua.
Thank you, Yeshua and Chris. Any questions for Yeshua and Chris? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. And next up is Franklin. Oh, Jen.
Thank you, Chris. I just wanted to say that I thought the Highgate graduation was really amazing. I was really excited and happy to be there. But the one thing I really liked was the fact that the kids got to sit with their parents. I really loved that. That was great. I think it made the kids feel really comfortable. If you could, I don't know, possibly maybe that could happen again in the future years or something. I just thought that was a really great idea. And I could see the more of a comfort zone with the kids because they were with their family. And I think you guys did an amazing job. That's it.
Thank you for that, Jen. And it's actually funny you say that because I thought the same thing. I liked being able to address the students and the parents at the same time. And so, yeah, it's definitely something I made a note about that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to Franklin and Joyce.
Okay, well, first I have to say the dunking booth story really brings me back bad memories, because I did a dunking booth one time in middle school. They did not put enough water in it. I had a hard time walking for about a month. I'm never doing a dunking booth again. Anyway, the end of school is always a whirlwind, even non-COVID or COVID, it's a whirlwind. And so just looking back last couple of weeks, we had moved our penny war so that sixth grade could be a part of it. And I was really glad that we did that, because even though it had to be different and it wasn't quite as exciting with everybody coming down, same time, we had to keep everybody in their cohorts and keep it separate. But the kids really enjoyed it. And like everything else this year, they didn't complain that it had to be different. They were just really glad that we could do it. And they did a super job, because we collected $912.12 for the food shelf and a couple more donations. So we're going to be able to give the food shelf in Enosburg $1,000. So I thought that was really super for kind of doing it at a different time of year and not being able to have quite the usual excitement around it. I will say the Batchelder kids put in a lot of money trying to sabotage their mother's class. They were a lot of fun to watch. Memorial Day, of course, we had to have the vehicle parade this year. Cannot wait until next year to be able to have school again and march around town and do the presentations and the barbecue. This year we just were one of, I think, 3 or 4 vehicles that went all outside of town in the parade. I have to thank Nancy Wilson for driving, and Alita Boomauer, Sue, and myself rode around in the back of the truck for over an hour. And it was cold, but we got to see a few people along the way and some of the kids, and it was nice. But looking forward to next year. We had our annual Fun and Fitness Day. Stations for each class to go in all day long, rain on my parade, spin art. We had the obstacle course, climbing wall, and slide. And yes, Julie, I sat at the top of the wall again, even though we had a different company and they had 2 people there, but I still sat on top of that wall all day, making sure that everybody could get up that wall. I will say I was really happy. It was a little easier climbing wall, so I didn't end up kind of like pulling my own muscles trying to help people get up the climbing wall. So that was good. But the kids just really enjoyed it. It was a beautiful day, and it was just, and the staff, everybody just really had a super time. And so that was a great day. Oh, I want to echo what Dina said about our music teachers. Jen McConnell actually did a final concert for the year. And again, it could have been so easy. She did 2 concerts this year. It had to be really different. It took a lot more to put it together. The band wasn't even able to rehearse the 2 grades together until June 4th. But she still did a video concert. And if you have a chance to, just look at bits and pieces of it, I loved the 6th grade compositions. Just what the kids titled the songs, even just really told you a lot about the kids and what they love and what they're interested in. And I just really appreciated Jen's perseverance to still do that. And the kids really enjoyed still having that, being able to see their work at the end of the year. Our summer programming, we've been continuing to work on that. We've got 22 kids enrolled in the Summer Adventures for Learning. I am so excited, and I hope it's going to work. We are still in the process of scheduling 33 kids for tutoring. That is the most we have ever had for tutoring in the summer. 5 of our teachers that are willing to do tutoring this summer. And I'm just really excited about that. We're doing a combination of remote and in person. And so I'm really hoping that everybody's able to schedule that time and to stick with it for the summer. So we're excited about that. We had an in-school celebration for our 6th graders. They kind of did activities that have been like the most popular activities from some of our past celebration nights. And I think they really enjoyed that day. Their classroom teachers did the special activities with them, and some of the other people in school, like I did a Sunday bar because that was something that's been a really popular thing at the past nights. And I don't think I might not ever eat ice cream again because I just ate so much, but the kids really, so I served every one of them and had the different toppings and everything. And, they just had just a wonderful time with their teachers and with each other and celebrating together because they couldn't go on a trip this year. And, but again, just so appreciative of everything. Then we had graduation on Thursday night, and we were able to have it in our gym. And I just can't thank people enough for helping to pull that off, because we had to move all the furniture out of the gym that's been stored in the gym for months because of the spacing requirements, and people helped move the furniture. We spent a lot of time decorating because we weren't having parents in to decorate this year. And I really wanted it to still be really special for the kids. So we spent a ton of time decorating, and everybody just really pitched in. And I knew it was going to be really special to have people back in the building, have families back, but I honestly can't tell you just how special it was. It just felt so good to have families back in the building. And I think people, we got a number of nice thank yous afterwards and emails, and I think it was just really appreciated, and the kids did a wonderful job. I love the class always does a class speech, and kids volunteer to read that at graduation, and I just love their speech. There's a tradition at Franklin of giving a class gift to the school, and they are giving the school, they wanted to do a banner with for the gym, with the new Franklin logo that was chosen by the community with input from everybody, including the school. It's going to be the Franklin Eagles is what was chosen. So we'll now have a logo and mascot. And so I thought that was a really thoughtful gift for them to give to the school. And Kathy Ovett did the fabulous job that she always does with the graduates movie. I did put the link into the graduation, and if you just have any interest at all, you can skip around in it. But if you get to the movie, I have been to a number of graduations, middle school, high school, college, but Kathy Ovett just does a wonderful job on that graduation movie. She literally keeps track of how many pictures of each kid, and kids are able to bring in, pictures from home, a certain number. They pick their song with editing approval from us, but they song, their transitions, their fonts. But I just, every year I think, oh, that's the best one she's done. And it just has just the most wonderful pictures of kids and their families and at school. And anyway, I just thought it was a really special night. And it ended by, we had each family come out, and they were able to, one at a time, families came out, the graduate rang the school bell, they took some more pictures. And I want to thank MVU. MVU gave each of the elementary schools a banner saying, "See you in middle school." And we put ours down at the exit. And so as families were leaving, they saw the sign from MVU, and some people stopped, and it was another little photo op spot, and took some more pictures, and it was just a really nice night. And again, it was beautiful weather too. I gave you the facilities update, lots of projects going on. So that's all happening and moving along. Our last student day was Monday. We did step-up activities, class awards, we kicked off the summer reading program. And again, like Yeshua said, everybody out and saying goodbye when the kids were leaving. I always have a hard time with that. We have one student who I'm happy it's going to Swanton, but our kids are moving, but I got all choked up saying goodbye. So I'll be over there to check on some of those students, just, see how they're doing. One thing that I thought was really cool about the last day of school, it was a Monday, and we had one student last day of school on a Monday. I thought that was pretty cool. And I think it kind of shows that just how much people are appreciating having their kids in school right now. And so I'm looking forward to not losing any instructional time next year. We're doing in-service right now. We've had 9 new students. We've had families visiting yesterday, today, tomorrow, and Thursday. New families visiting, and I think we're at 9 or 10 new students right now. And we've got the staff get together, which will be at my house Thursday night. As I'm looking around, I got a lot of work to do. So I'm looking forward to that. And I also want to thank the Rotary. We had the luncheon today that was from the gift from the Rotary. Jen and Carolyn did a barbecue and just did a wonderful job. And between that and the we'll do potluck, as Yeshua was saying that they did, we'll do a potluck at my house on Thursday night. And people in Franklin are such good cooks too. So I think by the end of the week, I will have gained about 10 pounds, but it'll all be worth it. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else in service. I hope none of the teachers from Franklin are watching this or will see this, because I don't think they had a lot of fun yet today in service. We have been really, I'll say cracking, really working hard, looking at all of our end of the year data. Long time today, and we'll be having transition meetings, as Yeshua was talking about. And yeah, we just got a lot scheduled. We don't get done until Thursday. Thursday's our last day of in-service. And I want to mention Pierrette and Julie Rivers get together at the Abbey, because we're having our staff get together for Franklin on Thursday, but it'll be after Pierrette and Julie's get together at the Abbey. So I would not want to miss that either. Anyway, so great end to the year, to a really challenging year, but I think it brought us all closer together. I think it made us appreciate things that we've never really thought to appreciate before, and just things that we took for granted. And so I feel like a lot of good things have actually ended up coming out. There are things that we've done during this year that we want to hold on to for another year. Like Jen was just saying, maybe something with Highgate's graduation, and we had things like that, like the ringing of the bell was some last year, but when we did the virtual, and so I think that there's lots of things that have, every cloud has silver linings, and I think we've worked hard to find those silver linings. So thank you. And that's it for Franklin.
Thank you, Joyce. Any questions? Oh, Dina.
If I could add on to what Joyce said, because MVU did a really great job, Dan and his team, in doing those virtual step-up days for MVU. I think Yeshua and Joyce would both agree. The banners were awesome, but I sat in on those, and gosh, it just made a difference for our kids. And it would have been just as easy to say, hey, we can't do anything, but just kudos to Dan and his team. And it's, once again, it's just that connection, and that transition, and how important it is. So I wanted to jump on that, Joyce. You brought that, the banners were so great as it was, but then the job they did. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments for Franklin and Joyce, or any of the elementary administration? Joanne.
So I'm not sure if it's question or comment, because if there isn't an answer, then I guess it's just a comment. And I did have it down. So thank you, Joyce, for bringing it up. And it's the summer program was my interest. And you reminded me of that when I was reading through your report. So I'm just curious with Highgate and Swanton, if the turnout, and I don't think I missed it. I quickly reviewed them again just before the meeting, but if the turnout for the summer program and summer fun activity programs that kids might be joining in, and then is there a real summer school that kids do have to join in? And I'm not quite sure. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how summer school works, if it's a mandatory thing or if it's just really advised to the families. So I guess that's just the comment I have.
Yeah, I don't know, Dina, do you want to speak to that? Do you want me to? Okay. So yeah, there's definitely, so to speak, a summer school part of it, and it's actually a kind of a twofold thing. So there's a ESY services that's kind of determined in one set of way, really it's a team decision about students coming in and being provided services. And there's tutoring that is, we have a system at Highgate of teachers recommending students they would like for tutoring. And then we take a list of those students and find a number of tutors who can provide that. So that would be the summer school part of it, which is typically, at least for us, about 8 to noon roughly, but the tutoring is in kind of 2-hour chunks. So kids aren't being tutored 4 hours a day. It's really 2 hours a day. And then there is summer crossroads, which, as you said, is kind of the fun exploration activities, which Beth Ann has done a phenomenal job with. Very creative, out of the box thinking. And Highgate in particular has a wait list for summer crossroads, which I guess is not typically a thing for Highgate. So we have a huge interest in it. But every student that wants ESY services or tutoring services is getting that as an option. And they also do have the option, because we made sure they were a priority in the summer crossroads. That way, if students or families really needed them to attend a full day camp, so to speak, they can have the tutoring or ESY services and then jump into the summer program. And then we open it up for all families that we knew were interested. So yeah, and believe me, it's great that you ask questions, because it's even confusing to me when I was figuring everything out this year. So I don't know, Dina or Joyce, if you want to add anything.
Well, one part of that too that I forgot to mention is our after school program coordinator, Kathy Kneebone, is also leaving, and she runs the Crossroads portion. But just like Franklin and Highgate, our numbers are very, very high. I saw a headline the other day that it's big everywhere. Our ESY, which is our special ed, I think we have 29 kids signed up, which is an incredibly high number. And hopefully they will all come. Our tutoring is another portion of that, and that's through Tiffany Renadette, and our teachers are doing the tutoring program. And then we too, those kids can go into Crossroads or go home. So there's, 3 or 4 different routes they can take. Jess McPeck is leading our summer school, the special ed portion, and it's just really all coming together. We also, I had said earlier in one meeting, Justina and I called all the parents of our VTVLC kids and our home study kids to kind of give them a first option of coming in academically, if there were needs there or some lags, and then that social piece as well. So I think it's going to be a really successful summer. And the numbers in all 3 schools sound really, really good.
Thank you.
Also, I would add that we have a partnership with Highgate Rec, Swanton Rec, and I think Franklin Rec as well, to have scholarships and opportunities for students to attend those programs as well. So we want to make sure that kids have lots of opportunities. And I think that was in the newsletter we did at the top of the month. Some info on that from Beth Ann.
Toby.
Julie, you made me think of something. Are those scholarships only available for the summer, or can they be extended through fall winter season too? Do we know? With the rec departments?
Yeah, sorry, I kept trying to unmute and it wasn't doing it. At this point, it's a summer. We have a contract / memo of understanding for the summer as a use of our ESSER funding.
Right.
But that is something, we'll have to look at as a team to see if there's a need for partnerships during the rest of the year.
I know rec departments try to make it. At least Swanton, I can't speak for the other 2, but I'm sure they don't try to turn any kids away if it's a money issue. But it would be interesting if the Swanton the rec departments don't have a ton of money either. So it just would be interesting if that could be, if there's a need and it can be extended through the whole next year. But that's just an observation.
It's one of those options we have with the COVID relief funding to maximize the opportunities for kids coming out of the pandemic. So we'll see how well it works over the summer and then what the ongoing need is.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. And hopefully y'all can enjoy your summer. Hopefully this summer is a little less eventful than last summer. So here's hoping. Okay, we can move on to new business. And first up under new business is the first reading of the school-sponsored student activities and athletics.
So Toby had sent an email to Chris and I, really looking to see if we could follow up our conversations that we've had previously with this policy, given the fact that school would be starting and fall athletics would be starting. And I really liked the policy that Toby had shared a couple. One, the VSA, the Vermont School Board Association policy was kind of bare bones, and this policy from another school district we adapted to match our MVSD policy numbers, but it's a nice policy. I shared that with Jay and Dan and John Lumsden, and they think that it is something that is a match with MVU as well. So this would just be the first reading of that. And then when we meet again in July, we would look we'll warn this policy in the meantime, and it would be ready for adoption at our next board meeting.
Any questions for the first reading? Jay.
Right. Sorry about that, Chris. Yeah, a couple of things in reading through this and obviously being involved with the Principals Association. And I spoke to Julie about this as well. A couple of places where it is mentioned rules and guidelines of the Vermont Principals Association in the first paragraph. You might also wish to include the National Federation of High Schools, since all 50 states in the country are obligated to follow, unless waivers are granted, the rules of the NFHS. And that would also be true on the second page, near the top under the third bullet, where it says conform fully to the rules and regulations, again, of the Vermont Principals Association. And you might again wish to include the NFHS. Going back to the front or first page, depending on how you copied it. Down at the bottom where it says guidelines and students should, the very last bullet where it says students should be enrolled in the public schools sponsoring the activity or eligible for participation as a home study student. I don't necessarily have the exact language for this, but I think you might wish to include something that says a school recognized alternative program. Because, for example, students who are now participating in the early college program, if they are able to, have the right to participate. And also, if you have students who are placed in an out-of-district alternative setting, and I'll use SOAR as an example, they too may also participate as long as they're a member of your school district. So you might wish to, I don't know what language you want to use, but I certainly want to make you aware of that. And then the other thing, and I guess this takes me back about 40 years to when we tried to bring a couple of activities into MVU. When you look near the very end, just above where it's date warned and date adapted, it talks about the board will make determinations related to individual activities based on the following considerations. And there are 5 things that are listed there. Once upon a time, I was told by some very wise school board members back in the late 70s and early 80s, probably after Joe left and I became athletic director, that you also might want to include something about financial restrictions as well. Because if you put in there that everybody loves the activity and we're going to do it, and then you find out you don't have money to support it, people tend to get very ugly very quickly. So those are just a few thoughts, and I don't care how you word them, but they're there.
Peter.
Jay, you mentioned I don't remember what it was, but all 50 states and the Vermont Principals Association. I certainly don't know all their rules and regulations. Do you have copies of those at the school? How do you know what the rules and regulations are?
The Vermont Principals Guidelines are available. Those are online, obviously. Vermont, like all the other states, there's a national federation, and there are 8 districts throughout the country, including the great north of Alaska and the far west, where your daughter is now in Hawaii. And all 50 states are divided into 8 sections, 8 regions. And again, the National Federation guidelines are the big umbrella, and then each state works within that. So I think it might be important, and I was a little surprised, as I said to Julie, not to read this in the district in which a lot of this language was borrowed from, that there was no reference made to the National Federation. But that's what it is. Yep.
Toby.
Mr. Hartman mentioned the last bullet, students should be enrolled, and he recommended our school alternative program. Actually, I'm in support of all those recommendations he made. But I also think there should be another one in those bullets, because I know we allow, I think, Mr. Hartman can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we allow schools that don't offer the sport, so they're not enrolled in our school, like kids from Enosburg can play on our hockey team when they're not displacing our kids. So I almost think it should be enrolled in a public school, or enrolled in a school with a cooperative agreement with our school. I don't know what those are, but that, because we do, and I think we want to continue to do that, because in many ways they help our programs exist, especially in the sports with low numbers. So that's just another, in addition to what Mr. Hartman just recommended. I think we should add something to that effect too. Be enrolled in a public school with a cooperative agreement with MVSD, or some wording, something like that.
Yeah, I can refer to that for you if you'd like, Toby. I know the Principals Association, as school enrollments have been declining over the last 10 to 15 years, have allowed for basically 2 types of programs to exist between schools. And one is the member-to-member that you referred to, and the other are the cooperative teams. Member-to-member is where a school might allow students from another school to participate in their program. As Toby mentioned, something like girls ice hockey as an example. Cooperative teams are when 2 schools agree to join and become and cooperatively sponsor one sport together. I'll use an example because they can't stand each other, but Williamstown and Northfield are 2 schools who were able to bury the hatchet a couple of years ago and put together both boys soccer and basketball one year. So those are a couple of other examples too, and we might be able to find some language for that as well. But those exceptions do exist.
Devin.
I'm going to stick to that same bullet, and just think about it in the context of our elementary schools, just to ensure that this language isn't going to limit the ability for schools within our district to send kids back and forth as certain classes might just not have enough kids to fill out a team in some areas, because I know they enroll in a particular building, even though they are all part of the MVSD. So I just want to make sure that we're not going to limit ourselves there.
I don't think you will, Devin, because the Principals Association, I don't believe covers elementary schools. Julie, you can correct me on that, but I know the policies that we follow are designed for both high school and middle school. Of course, middle school in itself can be a definition depending on what grade level you're looking at.
Yeah, I just think this policy looks as though it would apply to all of our entire district, I guess, is kind of my first impression there.
Yeah,
So
okay.
maybe I'm wrong, or maybe that's the edit. I don't know.
I think Devin brings up a good point, and as Jay and others are talking, I was pretty much focused on high school and middle school, more on high school. So I think we should make that clear.
Toby.
I would just say I believe this is all co-curriculars. It's not just sports. So I think we just need to keep that in mind, or maybe make it just a sports one. But I don't. It's student activities and athletics. It's co-curriculars. It's everything. It's not just, if we wanted to partner with another school for a Scholars Bowl or something team or something like that. I think that's all falling under VPA. So I'm of the opinion that I also think, because I remember being elementary school coach, I think everything falls under the VPA umbrella. I'm not sure on that. Again, I'm on the website right now. I'm trying to find it, but I seem to think that they have, the VPA has oversight over elementary guidelines too. I remember especially Swanton dealing with this when we were talking about having rec take over the school sports. That's been on and off a few years, and I think one of the concerns was falling under all the VPA regulations. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I think we need clarification on that, because many years ago, I know VPA came out and I think they did the spelling bee, but they had specific things. So I think it's worth a research with VPA people to find out before our next reading.
All right, so I will take this back, work with the questions that have been brought up, work with Mr. Hartman as well, and bring it back for a second reading. Does that sound right? Since it's not one bullet we're changing, it's a number of things. Okay, perfect.
Okay, are we ready to move on? It would appear we are. So next up under new business is MVU Capital Reserve proposals.
Okay, I can start the conversation. I'm not sure if anyone from the facility task force wants to weigh in, as we discussed this at our meeting last week. But Missisquoi Valley High School has a existing capital reserve fund. Historically, they had requested $100,000 a year be allocated in a separate article for the purpose of capital projects at MVU. I think there was some thinking that would eventually lead to a roof fund or some of those larger scale projects, but unfortunately $100,000 a year doesn't really get us where we need to be. Most of those we no longer do that. That's not the model that we've chosen to follow, and there's about $212,000 remaining in that capital reserve fund right now. The rules around those kinds of funds is that they cannot exist for long. Those funds cannot remain in that account for more than 5 years, or they become a sinking fund, which is actually then against statute in the state of Vermont. And so I think it's time to utilize some of those funds. In working with EEI and discussions with the task force, the recommendation would be to utilize $171,590 of those funds to install the 20 unit ventilators that we were able to obtain with the HVAC CRF funding due to COVID. They are currently sitting on site. We were not able to get the install approved as part of that grant. But EEI is in agreement as well that that would be a good use of these funds. While the system at MVU, as far as their air handler system, is not necessarily the most efficient system, it would be very cost prohibitive to change the HVAC system in a school that size, and probably is off the table completely. And so they feel comfortable with us moving forward with installing these units. I know Paul is in agreement with that as well. So I did include the New England Air System quote in the shared drive in case anyone wanted to see. There is also some control work from Temperature Controls of Vermont included in that quote as well.
Laura, can you put that up on the screen?
Sure. Oh, are you doing it, Julie? I can't hear you.
I know. You said sure, so I.
Oh, no, I can do it. Then my
Well,
screen.
I'll do it right now. You talk and I'm doing it.
Sorry, my screen changed when I said that and it looked like you were starting to present. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay. It's the capital reserve expenditures report. New England
Yeah,
Air System.
It's a proposal, New England Air. And so what it is 20 coil units to be installed with, again, some control work included in that. This would be in the library, A pod and C pod. This is 20 of about 120 units that will eventually need to be replaced. But we currently we're able to obtain 20 of them with grant funding previously. There may be more HVAC CRF funding available. There's $15 million that is allocated by the state of Vermont to be used. That's left over from the last round of COVID funding. But I was in a VASBO meeting on Friday and they still have not even developed a process for that money. And so it could be months, multiple months before they are in having another round of applications.
Here.
If you're ready, I'll make a motion to utilize our capital reserve fund to put in this replacement of 20 fan coil units from New England Air Systems for $171,590.
Does that delete all the funds there, or are there still a few dollars left?
There'd be about 40,000 left, Don. I can fill you in if you want on some things that were discussed at the task force meeting this week about potential uses for that as well.
Because we've had we're in our third or fourth year with that money.
Right. I think we would be technically by next year, we should be spending the remainder of those funds. But if we have a purpose now, auditors would agree that you should get them off the books if there's a way to use them now.
All right, thank you.
So Peter's the first. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Don's a second. Any discussion?
I usually don't move things that I wasn't part of the discussion, but I'll trust Peter to be knowledgeable about this.
So, Chris, the reason I agreed to move forward with this is Laura explaining that we don't have another viable means to put these in at this time. We may in the future, but if we want to get these in, and the fact that we need to use up this capital reserve fund, and we do have this opportunity to use it on this, I decided that this is probably as good of a place to use it as any. So that's why I agreed to move forward with it.
Thank you, Peter. Because I'd heard Franklin school board members were big spenders, and I wanted to make sure we didn't get out of control here.
Okay, Devin.
I was just curious if there were any other projects that were considered while considering this one.
So we did review Paul, EEI, and myself, and Julie, and I think somewhat with Chris, we did sit down and look at the long-term plan. All the other items on the list, either the timing won't work out, or we're not quite there with the EEI performance contracting piece to know if those investments are worthwhile. So this kind of seemed like the best option right now. There are a few other small things. Some involve the ag building and drainage systems and things like that, but we'll be bringing more information on those, and that they might be recommendations for the remaining 40,000.
Thanks.
And Laura,
Laura,
didn't they say something about with MVU that there's no way to put in an overall air handling system anyway, so
that's correct.
We don't really have a choice but to go this way.
Right. It would really be cost prohibitive. Like I said before, it would almost be as expensive as building a new school to put in a new system. Just there isn't room. So you'd literally have to remove the roof and do something completely different.
Laura, you in that discussion, you just said something that resonated with me, and I hope we all remember it. When I first heard tonight about this, I was thinking of the ag program. So I guess I will say that right now that I'd like to see something come forward from the ag program before we spend the balance. Now, everybody else can say no, but having been on the MVU board and how ag has been a real, and Jay knows this, a real high item for certain people in our school district. They used to come to the meetings. I think Jen DeSorga worked with them. We had developed a really good working relationship. And so if there's $40,000 out there, unless somebody's got something they really have to have, I'd like to see how we can impact the ag program.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also trying to see if when we do get some clearance and better understanding of how ESSER funding can be used, I think that the ag program, expanding the building and the hands-on learning opportunities for students should be ESSER compliant, only they're making any capital projects very difficult. So, that's one of those hot topics that we would like to use that funding for if we can. If not, we're going to see if we can set aside funds in a different way to get it done.
Thank you. Pierrette, make sure you get that in the minutes.
Okay, are we ready to vote, or is there any more questions or comments? Looks like we're ready to vote. All those in favor of accepting proposal of using I think it was 171,590 of the MVU capital reserve for installing the air handlers, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. Okay, next up under new business is Idea B assurances.
Okay, so every year we come to you with this request. Basically, it's a regulation or compliance issue because we receive Idea B grant funding. Our Idea B grant funding helps us provide funding for our adaptive curriculum coordinator, psychologist, partial funding for them, some SLP, partial funding, as well as OT and PT positions. And so this is just basically a compliance issue that I need to have a motion by the board and have it signed by the board chair as well as the superintendent, just assuring the federal government that we will do with these funds as we should, and we will follow the regulatory and compliance issues and reporting requirements.
Oh, Don.
I make that motion.
Okay, Don's the first. Do we have a second? Terry's the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the motion as presented, raise your hand. Against? Motion, I believe the motion carries 8-0.
Chris, I'll be sending you a DocuSign probably in the morning.
Okay. Next up under new business is FY22 tax anticipation line of credit.
Okay, so another item I come to you every year to bore you with. Every year we need to borrow money potentially in anticipation of taxes so that we can make payroll and pay bills prior to receiving our tax payments from the state. And so every year about this time, we solicit rates from local banks. This year I inquired with 5 banks. I received 3 responses. That's Union Bank, People's Trust Company, and People's United Bank. I did include a spreadsheet in the Google Drive outlining the amounts, the loan dates, and the maturity dates, but typically the loan dates go from July 1, 21, and they would mature in December. It is a line of credit. We only borrow what we need typically, and we pay it back as soon as possible. Last year, we needed to borrow very little, and we were actually able to pay back what we did borrow, which was just a couple of million within like 12 days. So we're very conscientious of the interest that we pay on those. So what you'll notice is Union Bank turned in a rate of 0.63%, People's Trust Company at 0.8%, and People's United Bank at 1%. People's United Bank is our main bank right now from Missisquoi Valley School District, but they did have the highest interest rate. Something that happened this year that I think is a good option, and I would like to make the recommendation, is that Union Bank offered a second option. That option being that they would provide us with a sweep account. We would pay a higher interest rate on the line of credit, but then they would take the funds that we did not use to operate or didn't need to operate, and they would invest them in a sweep account that would receive interest at 1.1%. So that's 20 basis points over what we would be paying in interest. That's also much higher than the interest that we would be getting in our current sweep account with People's United. And so that seems like a really attractive option. I have not had a bank offer that to us in a long time. I was pleased with that offer. So I think if the board was okay with it, that would be my recommendation, is that we operate with the sweep account. So a line of credit with the understanding that those funds, if they're not needed, would be invested in a sweep account. The term on that sweep account would be actually July 1, 21 through June 30, 22. So we could leave the funds in that account for the full year and accrue the interest. A note, just something to note, is that I thought this was kind of interesting, is that they actually will pay us interest on our interest. And so if there's 4 million and we accrue more interest, then they will pay us interest on the interest, and some it's just on the principal amount that was originally invested. So pretty attractive for us at this time, I think.
A couple hands up. First was Peter, then Terry.
Laura, I'm not familiar with this cash sweep. I was wondering if you could, and I apologize, but could you explain how it would work if we don't use the cash sweep? So do you borrow a certain amount of money anticipating what you're going to be short, but you may not use it all? Is that what you're saying? And then, but in the sweep case, you would borrow that same amount of money, but only have to pay interest against what you actually used? I guess I'm just trying to get that straight.
Sure. Sorry if I'm not being clear. So typically what we do is we only borrow when we need to. And so it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, it might be 3 months. It depends. We provide them with a cash flow. It depends on when payments come from the Fed. Sometimes there's timing issues and how much carryover we have and what our payroll looks like and insurance benefits and such like that. And we would not invest that money. So we would not pay interest on that money. So if it was 7 million, we would not pay interest on that line of credit until we actually borrowed. And we would only pay interest for the days that we did borrow. On the sweep account, immediately once we engage in the line of credit, they would issue us a check, or they would transfer this money into a sweep account that would then incur interest of 1.1%. So our current bank account, our current sweep account would kind of operate the same way with our operating funds. We're only getting 0.24% right now. And so the reason I think this is a great idea, or I like this idea, or I find it attractive, is because I don't believe we will need to utilize the funds for a very long period of time. It's a pretty small window. We have a significant carryover again this year that will probably get us through the first 2 months of school. Will it make us all the way through, November when we get our tax payment? Probably not, but that window when we actually will need to borrow and utilize some of those funds will not be that large. And so why don't we let it make money for us? There are a lot of rules in the law about that, but these terms are acceptable as long as that language is included. Does that make sense, Peter? I'm sorry if I'm not being clear.
No, you were being clear. I just not as familiar with it, so I just want to make sure I understood it. Thank you.
Terry, then Don.
Laura, I'm curious about this because I'm not quite sure. I've never had experience with it, but I can imagine how it goes. Does this mean with the sweep account and with does the expiration date, does that mean we have to keep that money in there until that time as a loan, or do you pay it back early? I'm just worried that we'll have all that money tied up in interest rates of 1.1 when I think interest rates are going to go up.
Well,
so
typically we don't invest the money of the school district. There's a lot of arbitrage issues with investing school district funds. It makes it pretty difficult to do. And oftentimes the only way you will actually make enough money to make it worthwhile is with a certain amount of risk, which is not allowed. So basically this is a way we would not be utilizing these funds anyway. So it would be in the best interest of the school district to keep this money in the account for a full year and then accrue the interest on it for a full year. We will have our tax payments and have all the money we need to operate by November, or enough money to operate. We get tax payments at different times, but we will have enough and not be in this deficit after November at the absolute latest. And so we will have plenty of money to operate with. This would be this additional money that we've borrowed that we're paying 0.9% interest on. We would therefore be actually receiving 1.1% interest on. And so that's 20 basis points to the good for us.
Okay, so it's really a lot. It's a 0.2.
We're being allowed to make money on this money, even though we're paying 0.9, we're making 1.1. Which again, there's a lot of rules around that, but with this, for this term, we would be allowed to do that.
But you said we had a checking account that was a sweep account with a different bank that was only how much? 0.3 or 0.25?
0.24 right now. Last year it was, I think what did I just say? 1.25 or something. It was much higher before COVID, but it's come down significantly. And I asked them to increase it and they were not willing to do so.
So basically, by doing this, what we're doing is not having to pay interest. So this money we borrow every year in a line of credit, even if it's for a very short period of time, we do have to pay interest on whatever we borrow. This would be eliminating that interest payment. And if anything, we'd actually make a couple coins.
Right. But it also keeps our money invested in this investment until the expiration date or the maturation date. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I think it's a great idea. And yes, it sounds good on paper in terms of cost, but there might be lost opportunity. And I know you can't, put in money and make investments and checking accounts. They're not going to, you can't put it in all that kind of stuff. I'm sure, Laura, you think of everything. You've weighed that with this and think that it's well worth the loss opportunity by doing this?
I guess I
don't. It's not actually, we're not putting money in it. This is the money that we would borrow in anticipation of waiting for our tax monies to come in. So if we don't end up needing it, it would just sit there anyway. We would just close out the loan quicker. But what your recommendation is, we stay in this loan for the full year to just gain that little bit of interest on it, correct?
Correct. If I understand what Terry's saying is that, in the private sector, there might be some more efficient ways to use this money and make it work for us. Like in my world, I would go out there shopping for the best rate, maybe a little higher risk. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in public education and the basically taxpayer money, you're not allowed to do a lot of those things. And so this is probably the best case scenario of what we are allowed to do with these borrowed funds. And we would still be getting the interest on our other sweep account of 0.24. So we're not, that money is still going to be there. The tax revenue, you know, all of our other federal grants, state funding, all that money will still be there getting 0.24. Union Bank will not allow me to take that money and move it over to Union Bank right now. This is like a package deal on the borrowing. You're borrowing at 0.9, they're giving you 1.1. So I've asked all those questions. Yeah, I mean, do I think maybe non-COVID times, could we make more money with this money? Potentially. This year, this is probably, I would say definitely about as good as it's going to get.
Okay, Don's first, then Devin, then Toby.
Thank you, Laura, for bringing this up, and thank for the people who have questions. Let me assure the board members that this is a good deal. 25 years ago, we were making enough to pay at least one teacher using the sweep account. And then some of the regulations changed. So I'm pleased that this is Union Bank, right? They have new management there in the last 2 years. So they may be a little forward thinking. You can't lose on this deal unless you put your money in the stock market and pray, Terry. But other than that, the whole idea, it just sweeps in there and every day. Because usually the intent is somebody will draw. You need money for teacher salaries, or you need money to purchase some major item for a library, whatever. So it's a great concept, but for whatever reason, I haven't heard much about it in the last few years. So it's good it's coming back. One question I would ask Laura, just so that maybe we as a board have a comfort level, maybe in January, the first or second meeting in January, just give us an update on what's happening. Doesn't mean we're going to change our minds, but if something happened, but it'd also be a good way for us as a board to be educated. But I haven't used it for a long time, but I'm going to tell you, we saw it as a nice source of income.
We can't change our mind if we do this, can we? I mean, it's just going to be an update. You can't.
No, you're going to change your mind.
We could pay it back though if you wanted me to. We could pay it back at any time with no prepayment. I will make sure that language is in here. It does in the proposal letter. It does state that, but I will make sure it's part of the contract as well. We could pay it back at any time. I'm just not sure what opportunities will be available that will offer us a better rate. And we'd have to make sure that our, we no longer needed to utilize the funds. So I would say, definitely probably not something to consider before end of November, beginning of December, when we might have a cash flow issue. But after that, yes, we could. But I guess I'm not really sure why we would if it's collecting interest.
So I guess I wanted to chime in just to disagree with Don a little bit. There is a way to lose on the deal. And that is if you had to spend all of the money you borrowed right away. Yeah. If you borrowed $5 million and you had to pay out salaries and everything else, there would be no money to go into the sweep account to accrue interest.
That's true. Yeah.
So the real key here, and was the statement you said early on, Laura, was that our carryover is large enough that we won't have to use these funds. And so it's all about that average balance in that sweep account to know if the effective interest rate, once you net, the interest earned with the interest paid, if that's better or worse than the 0.63 that they offered as just a simple loan. And so I guess that's what the calculation, Laura, that we've got to trust you to do to figure out what you think that expected balance is going to be, and if the net works out in our favor. And
I mean, I don't have a magic ball, but I do have 10 years of historical information that typically we borrow for a very brief period of time. Now that we're merged and we've been so efficient with the funds and we're having these significant carryovers, I feel like it may be 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know that for sure, but I mean, that's the window of time when you look at a cash flow analysis that we're looking at, that we would actually have to utilize a portion of those funds. Definitely not the full 8 million.
Thank you, Devin. But we never lost money. We never lost money because, as Laura said in the beginning of the conversation, what our carryover and what our cash flow is. If the state of Vermont decided they weren't going to give us state aid until February, or your local town clerks said, we aren't going to release the taxes until the last possible legal day, or not release them at all, I could have, but if everybody plays by the rules of the game, you're right, it averages out. But if you know going in, it has to be a moneymaker.
Toby, then Peter.
People's Trust right now, right, Laura?
No. You mean all the accounts for MVSD? That's at People's United right now.
People's United.
People's Trust was they did put in a bid, but they were not high enough.
Yeah, anyone could talk me into anything finance. So like Devin and Don, I'm like, that's not my thing. But I do wonder, is our current bank local? Meaning,
Well, it used to be. They've been sold. So we still have local branches, but they've been sold to a larger corporation for sure.
Okay, is Union Bank local?
Yes, Morrisville, Vermont.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me that factors into my thinking. So that would be another reason for me to support the move, because of that.
Well, and just to clarify, it wouldn't be a move. I'm not proposing that we move all of our accounts right now.
Okay.
But yeah, we will definitely in the future. Just right now, it's more than we can handle.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Toby,
yeah.
People's United is now merged with M&T out of Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. That's and Union Bank is Vermont.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I know it's a lot of work, but thank you for explaining all of that.
Sure. I would still need a motion though.
I'll make that motion.
Well, hang on. Peter hasn't had his chance.
Oh, I'm sorry, Peter.
No, I really appreciate Devin's analysis because I was really struggling, wondering why banks were giving away money. So they're hedging their bet that we're going to actually use or borrow a larger chunk of it than we're anticipating. So that's where I was struggling is I know the banks aren't in business to lose money, so they had to have some angle here, and I'm sure this is to incentivize us to go with this, and then they're hoping that we're going to borrow more than what we're anticipating. Is that correct?
And they're looking at their whole book of business. So, we look at our own situation, and Laura's, come back to say it's probably advantageous for us. They set their pricing based on doing this with, a group of institutions and hoping that they come out ahead in total. So
they also, I mean, you mentioned it being a local Vermont bank. It's a large account. This year will be a $52 million checking account with other associated accounts, and it's secured monies. And so I think Union Bank has been after our business for years. They always bid. And so that sometimes helps our rate.
Laura, and I don't want to prolong this, but I think if someone was to talk with the high-level officials, maybe not the president, but high-level officials of banks, there are some advantages to them in loaning money to not-for-profits like municipalities. So there's some things that never surface between our relationship with them that in the eyes of the feds and their expenditure bottom line is to their advantage.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah. Yep.
They aren't doing it just out of the goodness of their heart.
They've got a regulation, community investment thing that they have to invest so much. Yeah,
right.
Good point.
I have one quick question, and I don't want to push this along any longer, but if we were to say you borrowed $8 million, we used all $8 million the first month because of whatever reason, but we paid it back a month later, and then we had it for the other 11 months with the money sitting there, does it still accrue interest or interest for us, or we have to pay interest against it?
We only accrue interest on what we leave sitting in the sweep account. So only money we don't need for expenses would accrue the 1.1%.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you. Okay, unless there's any other questions at this time, I'd entertain a motion to accept Laura's recommendation to go with Union Bank. Don's a first.
Seeing Don second my motion earlier.
What was that?
That I will second, seeing Don was kind enough to second my motion earlier tonight.
Okay, so Don's first, Peter's the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of going using Union Bank's option for our FY22 tax line of credit, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. Okay, next up under new business is food service contract renewals.
Okay, so another thing that we do every year, I bring to you for consideration food service management contracts or renewals. Our food service management contracts are only allowed to be 1-year contracts, and it's allowed to have the potential for 4 renewals after that original year. We currently contract with the Abbey in Highgate, MVU, and Swanton. All 3 of those would be in their second year. We were able to get them in the same cycle, which is nice. These contracts have gone up 3.7% this year. That's actually the limit based on the Consumer Price Index food away from home rate. There's actually a special rate for that at 3.7%. The Abbey has requested that increase. It is allowable. And quite frankly, I think it's fair given the situation that they've been operating under to provide foods for families and students and community members over the last 1.5 years, 2 years. And so those documents are also in the shared drive for consideration, but I would need a motion on each one of them separately. It is one contract, but they technically operate separate accounts. So if I could have one motion for each program, that would be great.
So you would need a motion for each individual school?
I think it would be cleaner, yes.
Okay. So let's start with MVU.
I'll make a motion to renew the Abbey contract for 1 year at MVU.
Devin's the first. Terry's the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of renewing 1 year with the Abbey for MVU, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0, and then a whole bunch of hands went up. So I'm not. Are they voting, or did you have questions? Peter, Toby.
But the only question I had was how much. I know you said 3%. How much was the contract last year? I was just wondering what the dollar difference was.
Well, it's a little tricky because they have to provide an estimated contract total, a total value of the contract, but that's based on estimated participation. So that 3.7% is actually on the per meal price. So there's a specific price, fixed plate cost that we pay for lunches, we pay for breakfast, we pay for a la carte. Those went up the 3.7%. Would you like me to tell you those amounts? I don't have them right in front of me, but I can go grab them.
No, that's fine. I was just wanting to have a ballpark, but I mean, I still support it. I was just
I can tell you
what
on
the dollar value was.
Lunch, it's like $1.84, and it's going to like $1.95. Breakfast is less than that. Total contract value in each of our schools, I mean, MVU is probably, it's about a $400,000 contract overall, but that's based on estimated budgets.
Okay, thank you.
I will send that out to the whole board with the contract amounts, the each plate cost.
Okay, so next up, let's do Highgate. Terry's the first. Devin's the second. Any discussion? Devin.
I was curious about the management fee per meal on the Highgate agreement being 3 times that of Swanton and MVU. What's the rationale behind that?
It had to do with the timing of the Highgate contract and when they were our first contract to go to the fixed plate cost. It's capped at a certain percentage. You know what, Devin, I'd like to look into that myself. Thank you for pointing that out. She rewrote these today because the state of Vermont just gave us a new 21-22 form about 3 hours before the meeting. So I asked Julie Magnan from the Abbey to rewrite these, and I'm wondering if that might be an error.
Okay, so should we table this one?
Unfortunately, I can't operate the summer food service program starting with the summer as soon as I need to. Is there, can we make a motion? I'm sorry, I didn't pick that up. Contingent upon,
Well, the percent increase would still be 3.7, correct?
overall, yes.
Overall, so the motion is to approve the contract, the renewal of the contract at the 3.7% overall.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that would change the motion, but we should look into that 0.05 management fee and respond to the board about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't pick up on that, Devin.
Toby.
I might have missed it, but why can't we get these all to sync? I mean, Franklin and Swanton, Highgate, and MVU. What?
Well, they are separate sites. Try not to confuse people. It technically is one contract, but it's allowable to have separate programs, and those programs then have to be their own site. And so when you create a budget and you report on financials and you set your per meal plate costs and all of those things, you're allowed to do that separately by program. And so the way that the Abbey does this is based on each school, their participation, their free and reduced price hot lunch rate, the reimbursements that will be coming from the state of Vermont, the cost that it costs them to provide the food options that that school specifically wants and needs, which may be different than another school. They come up with basically a budget and a management plan. So it may not be the same for each school. Because of the way we have in the past at Franklin Northwest and Missisquoi Valley School District, what happens in the hot lunch program in each building is the discretion of the principal and that program. It's not a decision that's made at a centralized level. We could merge them and have one complete contract.
Yeah, well, I would imagine the food in MVU is wanting to be different than the food at a different school. It's just from a board perspective, it would just be easier if, like, because we're gonna have to do this for what? So, I mean, it would be nice if they're at least all in the same year. But
after a year like this year, when we actually were, during the pandemic, we were providing all meals through MVU's program, and therefore all the reimbursements and all the meals were being claimed through MVU without really being able to track them, because anyone in the community could pick up a free meal and we were able to apply for reimbursement for that. So that's a case where that funding really belongs to all the programs, but it flowed through MVU. So that would be a perfect example of why one program would be better. But typically hot lunch programs historically, and I don't know if you remember some discussions, Toby, at school, but hot lunch programs are near and dear to the hearts of many people in the community and the schools. I know they are in Franklin, and I think they are in all the rest of the schools as well. It's something that people really like to have control over, as far as, offering a salad bar at the Babcock kitchen, and
Yeah, they are. I mean, Franklin doesn't have a food service contract with the Abbey. It's done in-house. So at least they are now all in the same year, those that we contract with, because that didn't used to be the case.
I would be happy to look at that in the future if that's something that the board would like me to investigate, for sure.
Is that something the board would be interested in pursuing?
I would think only if it comes with some sort of benefit. I don't want it to be busy work for you and your team, Laura.
I think timing wise this year, and this is always, we are always down to the wire with food service, and this comes down from the AOE. They give us the documents and they are forcing our hand to adopt them and come up with our budgets and everything. It makes it very difficult for food service management companies and myself to put a program in place legally and be able to submit for reimbursement by July 1, which is when our summer program starts. And if I don't have it in place when summer program starts, then I can't claim those meals. So they, literally I got these renewal forms a few hours ago. That's how tight it's been. So I would just hate to hold up the process this year. I would be happy to do that next year, or I would really hate not to have these in place for the start of the summer program.
Yeah, I think we're talking about going forward.
Okay.
No,
it would be a negotiations. We would launch a bid again and we would negotiate again.
would we be able to, is there any benefit to having it listed as one program versus 3 financially? Like, is it worth the time to do all that or not?
Well, technically we went out to bid that way this year, but we allowed it to be separate as well because we wanted to allow Franklin to opt out if that's what Franklin wanted to do and continue with their program. We could draft the language differently to just include Highgate, Swanton, and MVU, and probably go out to bid again on one. I don't know what the benefit would be. I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but if you remember, this fixed price meal contract is a big change from when it was a cost reimbursable contract structure last year. Sorry, been 2 years now. And that was a big change for everyone. And we knew, I think if you remember, I did explain that there would be a learning curve for both sides, the food service management companies complying with those new regs and us learning what was a good rate. If you ask the Abbey, they did lose money on the Highgate program the first year that they did it. And they also lost money at MVU the first year that they did it because they couldn't capture the expenses that they were putting into the program because they set their fixed price too low. And so now they're adjusting that.
Okay.
Sorry, I hate boring people with food service. So
as far as, we're still within this motion for Highgate. So, we're not looking to change anything this year, but moving forward, I would say at this time, unless there's some financial gain of combining them at this time, we'd like to kind of keep status quo unless somebody misinterpreted that, but Peter.
Is the Abbey the only game in town? I heard they were the only ones that bid.
They're the only ones that have ever bid on any contract that I've put out in the last 11 years. We've had other people call. I always thought that if we did merge them into one contract, it would be more attractive, but we're just not big enough. They're going after universities and hospitals and, those larger. And I've also heard that the quality, I'm not saying the quality is perfect with the food service management company that we have, and there's not room for growth. But if you talk to some other school districts that have some other vendors in place, Fairfax is one of them that made a change recently. The quality has not been good. But no, we've never had another company bid.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
Back to Devin's statement. I guess I would ask that you could approve these based on the 3.7% with the caveat that I will have discussions with the Abbey discussing the management fee, and I can email the response and the explanation. I'm sorry that I didn't pick up on that earlier.
Is it clear that the motion references the 3.7%? Can we?
I can amend it if we want to amend it, or we could just put that in the way it was originally said. Whatever works best for Pierrette, who's taken the minutes and the.
I have it saying 1 year at Highgate at 3.74% overall. That's what I have.
So we should be all right with that. With the caveat that Laura will do a little digging and get back to us. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the Highgate contract, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. And last but not least, Swanton. Devin to first. And Terry's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the Swanton contract, raise your hand. Motion carries 7-0 because we lost Jen. I'm not sure if she's having connectivity issues or not, but at this time there's only 7 of us here. So, okay, moving on from, we're done with new business. Moving on to old business. First up is new teacher hires.
I don't have any new teachers today. We thought we were going to have one, but she did not accept.
That's too bad. Okay, next up.
Chris, before we leave that, how are we coming with ag teachers? We have a full contingent?
Hopefully we do. We did last board meeting. We hired and he signed for our ag mechanics teacher.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Okay, we have an employee matter, which is probably needing of executive session.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're done with old business. Moving on to other business. We have our committees, which is first up, board goals.
How about I jump in board goals and then committee, if you have something to add, you feel free, okay? So a couple of things. We do have a meeting planned for tomorrow night, which is our third Wednesday of the night. And we'll probably end up planning or talking about the retreat and what the board development committee would suggest, would recommend. And Pierrette, I'm so sorry that I just sent that to you tonight. I kept thinking to do it and I kept forgetting. So hopefully that won't be too hard. Then the other thing was, last meeting, we said we'd send you out a survey for the board process and also the goals. And we stopped a little bit on that because we knew there were so many surveys out. So I sent the survey tonight, but there's been a glitch, I must say, and I'm really sorry. And if Jen were here, she'd tell you that she's been my test pilot today, inadvertently, probably because she was the first one to try to use it. And it didn't quite work. So, but maybe I can share. Can I share the screen to tell people, show people what they're getting? Julie, would that be okay? Do you have to?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know how to do that?
I know how to do it, but am I allowed?
Of course you are.
Okay, so I'm going to share. I'm going to share a window. Okay, so I am going to go to, oh shoot, I thought I had it up. Just a second. You might be seeing more than you wanted to see, but I am going to go to this and to my email. Can everybody see my emails?
You're showing a document.
I'm showing a document?
Yep. It's a superintendent's update. Let's see.
I'm going to stop sharing because that's not what I wanted to share. Okay, so maybe I share a window on this, huh?
Or a tab. Do you have
a tab? Okay, tab. Okay, so here's my inbox. I'll show you that. So tell me if you can see this. You see my inbox?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, you all will have gotten an inbox. You will have gotten an email from me explaining how you're going to get two, actually it's my email, but it's from the committee, explaining how you're going to get 2 surveys that we're going to ask you to submit. And when you open it up, well, you're going to get 2, but in this case, you're going to get about 4 because the survey wasn't working. So if you would, when you see something that says MVSD goals, if you click on it, you'll see that it says MVSD goals. Hopefully that'll work. And then what you do is you just click on this and that'll give you bring it up. And then you click on next and you'll see it's right here. Okay. And then of course you'll go to the next page and it's got page 2. So just to go back here, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows how to do this. First of all, there is one thing, the rating scale that we're using here is not achieved or fully achieved. And it doesn't say that. The key's not right here for you to see on that first question, but all the other questions, the key is there. So if you could just know 1 means not achieved and 5 means fully achieved. So when you have that done at the very end, it'll ask you to submit. So you submit. And this is only viewable by the committee, by our committee. So we'll tabulate that and hopefully it'll help us when we're doing our planning for the retreat. The other, then I want to show you the other one that you'll be getting. So if I get back into my inbox, the second one I'll be getting is called Board Process Assessment. And this one looks a little different, brown instead of the other. And if you fill it out in the Google Forms, just like it says, this one, the key is strongly agree and strongly disagree and strongly agree. With 1 meaning you strongly disagree and 4 being you strongly agree. I know some people have, when you've done ratings, they're all over. Sometimes it says strongly agree on this side, strongly disagree. We are going for the higher the number, the more you agree. And that'll help us with our point when we do our summary. So hopefully you won't get too confused by the number of board, the other ones, I'm sorry, hopefully you won't get too confused by the number of MVSD goal forms that you see. But the one, if you have any trouble, it's not the right document, because you shouldn't have any trouble if you get the right document, which should be the last one you receive from me, all right? So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Let me stop sharing. You probably see it more than you need to see on this. Let me just ask questions if anybody has any questions on what we're doing and why. Jen, I did tell them you were my test pilot. Thank you. So we hope we got it at the end. But the first email explains to you why we want to do it and why there's 2 forms and how it's really important for us to do board assessments, just to check our vital signs and also to use it as we do strategic planning or as we fine tune going forward. So I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it if you would fill that out as honestly as possible, because we don't want to just put a coat of paint over something. We want to work with fixing it. So how about if the rest of the committee would share some of what their thoughts are about how the committee, what we're working on, what we need to be doing, what you'd like to share with people. Joanne is our great driver. She makes sure we meet. Joanne, Toby, Devin, anybody want to say anything?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Devin.
Oh, no, I'll defer to you.
So well, what I would like to put out to the board is if the board could just take a few minutes and do this, obviously as soon as possible. I know we're going to meet tomorrow and we'll go through whatever we have, but I guess the wish or the belief behind this work that we're asking the board to do is that when we do get together at the retreat, I'm not sure how long of a period of time we're going to have at the retreat, but the more that the board does, in the next couple of days, then when we get together, the board, the committee, the 4 of us get together, we can sort through a lot of this stuff and just have those really bold bullets that it looked like the board, was passionate about, or felt that we just had not reached yet, but we really wanted to reach in the coming year, maybe coming 3 years. Like, I don't know. Any comments that can be put on the survey is going to help us get to the point when it comes to the retreat, because I think I could spend 8 hours at the retreat talking about a lot of this stuff, but we're not going to have 8 hours. So that's my thought.
Well said. I have nothing to add now.
Nor do I. It'll just help the committee find out what you're all prioritizing. I'm eating now. That's why my camera's off, but I'm still here.
Thank you, Toby. Okay. Thank you. You know, those surveys really, once you get on them, if you just, it doesn't take more than 10 minutes per survey. So if you could help us, that'd be great. Is that true, Jen, when you were taking them? How long did it take you, do you think?
Well, one of them was really easy, Terry.
Yeah, when you come to that one, folks, that's not the right one.
But yes, very easy.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up would be the facility committee. We did meet, I think, last Monday, and we went over the presentation from EEI to narrow the focus a little bit on which direction we wanted to go with, because when EI met with us, they kind of gave us a option 1, option 2, option 3 for most schools. They didn't for Franklin, but they did for the other 3. And we just kind of wanted to narrow their focus so they're not all over the map and wasting their energies on something that we know we're not interested in, whether it's doesn't fit our school or it's just price-wise is just unrealistic for our communities. So we were able to narrow down a direction for each school to focus narrow the focus at each building. We did request a little bit more for Franklin, a little deeper look into some options there. There is also some talk about centralizing pre-K. Whether it's on our MVU campus somewhere where we look into building a whole new building where we possibly put a centralized pre-K and central office into a new building, or try to reuse an existing building, but more or less centralized pre-K, which alleviates a lot of our crowding issues in our elementary schools. Something we're looking at, see if it's even financially feasible. Let's see. From the EEI standpoint, like I said, mostly it was just narrowing down our focus on each building to give them something to work towards. I believe they're going to come back to us in a month or two. I'm not sure on that one. Yeah, a month or two. And then we also had some discussions about summer work, and that's out of that came that capital reserve recommendation earlier. We also got to meet the new buildings and ground director in Franklin. Interestingly, his name is also Steve. It was a long meeting. We went over a lot of information. It's just not really a lot to present to the board yet. It's just, like I've said twice already, we just really narrowed the focus and tried to look at what each building's needs were as far as space. We're also trying to look at, just because our counts might be down in a couple schools, we don't want to shortchange ourselves in the long term, because there is some potential growth in the area. So we don't want to limit ourselves either. I mean, we don't want to make the schools way bigger for no need, but at the same time, we don't want to assume our student counts won't ever go up. I mean, case in point, Joyce said that she had 9 students moving in. And we know Swanton's booming too, so this is an attractive area for people to live in, so we don't want to short ourselves that. Feel free to fill in the blanks, Peter.
Chris, the only other thing that I would add, and I don't know if it's public knowledge, but it probably should be, and at least the board should be aware of it. In Highgate, there was discussion of sinkholes, which is quite concerning, and it sounded like Scott has a handle on it, but who knows where that's going to lead. So that could be an expense down the road or very, very shortly. So I thought that was concerning. So hopefully, just so the board is aware that there is that issue.
Thank you, Peter. I forgot about that. The good thing is it's not a real high dollar problem. That right now, I think worst case scenario, we're looking at about $25,000. But it is an ongoing issue. I believe this was his 5th sinkhole in a month or two. So it's definitely something now that the students are gone, they're going to take a deeper dive into it and see if they can figure out exactly what it is.
I wasn't at the meeting, but this sinkhole, is this where we just paved over?
No, it's on the playground. It's between the playground and the brick building.
Okay, thank you.
I know that was my first question too, Don. Okay. Any questions for either the board goals or facilities committee? Seeing none, next up would be the superintendent evaluation committee, which is also need for executive session. So at this time, next up is our next meeting, which is July 20th. It's also going to be our board retreat, but we'd like to set a time and place, and also now that the restrictions are lifted, we can meet in person with no masks. How nice is that?
So I did have Purette look into the possibility of the Abbey. They are available on that date. I know Terry nicely said everybody could meet on her porch. It does get a little tricky though, because the very beginning of the meeting would still be a public meeting.
I need to interrupt you, Julie. I need to leave for a phone call, kind of an urgent phone call, but I will not be with you on the 20th of July. That's always the week we go to our family goes to Maine, and when we were in Virginia, people bought the airline tickets and they'll be there. So I won't be there the 20th, but I just got a call that I have to take. Okay, go ahead, Sarah. I'm with you. Hello?
Okay.
I did. Yes, I got to chat with her.
Can you end his session, Julie? Because I can.
Okay.
Or at least mute him.
She was.
There, I muted Don. I think he'll be able to unmute himself when he comes back on. I don't think the public wants to hear Don's private conversation. So we can use the Abbey. I had also had Purette look into the Hampton Inn in St. Albans, because they have a nice meeting room in there, and then people can, go have dinner or lunch or something together, but they did not get back to Purette. So at this point, I would suggest we do the Abbey, because we can have a virtual portion of the meeting that would be public for the beginning, and then move into the training/retreat portion of the meeting, which is allowed to be not public. We could have board members actually eat together and visit, and then go into the board work that you want to do, looking at how well you work together in terms of process, as well as set goals for the board for the next year. So if that's okay with people, so that's the first question. Then the second question would really be, what time would people be available? Because to Joanne's point, she how early people can come together has a lot to do with how much work you can do together. Whether it's 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours. 4 hours is a lot. You did that last time. That was a lot. But you tell us and we'll make it so.
Joanne?
So I guess I just have a question. So it's going to be a normal, whatever normal is, I don't know what that is, board meeting, kind of, with an agenda, all of these things, and then a retreat? Oh, just a baby agenda.
It would it'd be a short agenda, because there is certain business we have to do every month, like check warrants, that kind of thing. So, and approval of previous meeting minutes, really boilerplate motions that are 20 minutes tops kind of thing.
Okay.
Terry?
I have a question on when our new schedules for the year starts. Is that July or is that August of scheduled meetings? Because I do remember we talked about having it be the third Wednesday. I think it was going to be the first Tuesday of the month, and then instead of third Tuesday, it was going to be the third Wednesday or
I thought
third
it was Thursday. I thought.
Thursday.
So this is the third Tuesday, which is fine with me. I just wanted to make sure we're not losing sight of the fact that we were going to change it to the third Thursday.
Yeah, Julie and I had talked about that and that we were going to start that right after the retreat. So August would be the first Tuesday and third Thursday, and that's how the remainder of the year would go.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, Terry, you're right. I don't know why we picked the Tuesday. No idea.
I think that was me.
Julie, just a note, I don't know if it matters because we will be warning it, but in the annual report, we did say that it would be starting in July the 1st.
We can make it the 22nd.
Yeah, so I already have the Abbeys, so we could.
Do we just need a motion to change that date for that one meeting?
Yes.
Let's decide on time, and then I guess we can make the motion.
Jen.
I just have a quick question. And I wasn't at the meeting last time, so just wanted to clarify. Did we know that Dawn wasn't going to be available on July 20th then, or we just know now? Or I would just kind of think we'd want everybody there if we're going to do a retreat.
Yeah, I was in Virginia. In fact, I just left. We have a family crisis we're working on, but we were there for graduation. But anyway, no, I knew we were going to have it sometime, but I didn't know when. So I didn't know it until I saw the minutes, and then I figured I'd bring it up tonight. But you know, do I want to participate? Sure, I'd like to participate. Is it essential? No, it's not. I would like to tell you I could participate via Zoom, but where we stay near the ocean, sometimes we have no cell phone contact, no Wi-Fi, which I like. Grandkids all get phones, but go ahead and plan it. I could do it the week before or the week after, but you know, if you've got the Abbey reserved and everything, your plans in place, I would say I feel comfortable you're going ahead with it. But thank you, Jen.
Well, we can look into doing it the week before. You know, I think it's good to have the entire board there. We didn't want to do it for your first board meeting of the month because the turnaround time on everyone planning for the retreat would be a little short. I won't be around the next week, so feel free to retreat without me, but I figure you want me there. But just as we want Dawn there. So maybe we do the Thursday before and we make it, oh, I lost my calendar. The 15th would be the week before on a Thursday.
Does the 15th work for everyone else?
So let's work on the 15th. We can talk to, if we can't get the Abbey, we'll talk about other alternatives. And I'm betting we can. It's just a matter of what time we would like to come together, because I know it's a weekday and people outside of education have less flexibility.
Peter.
I know I'll be working that day, so the earliest I could get there would be 5 o'clock. It would be right at 5 o'clock.
Peter, you broke up. I couldn't hear what time that would be for you.
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock would be the earliest I could get there.
Terry.
I was just wondering if we established that Thursday worked for everyone, or if there was anyone it didn't work for. And then my second question was, we could do Tuesday if that works better for people or gives more flexibility, but maybe it's the same as Thursday, huh? Just some options, just to make things more complicated. 5 would still give us time to do stuff. Would you make it earlier if it was Tuesday, Peter, or will it always be 5? Always be 5.
No one had said anything about the Thursday. And I guess we can use the start time of 5 if that works for everyone else. I mean, 4 hours would be probably about the max because it'd be 9 o'clock if we start at 5.
I think Joanne wanted to start at 8 a.m. I'm not sure.
I think you're right.
I'm with you, Joanne. We have a lot of business to do.
I enjoy this team. I think we can get a lot done in 8 hours and have an hour lunch.
All right, so I'm hearing Thursday, the 15th at 5 o'clock. We'll have a very short formal board meeting, check warrants, minutes, you know, that kind of thing. And then move right into the retreat and work with the board goals and Chris to create that agenda and what it looks like.
So Julie, that would be the only meeting in July?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just confirming.
Did you
And the room
discuss?
is free. Sorry.
I was
And
going to
the
ask.
room is free if you order food.
Okay, hold on. Pierrette, what did you say?
Yeah, I apologize, Don. I said the room is free if we order food. Do you want me to say about food for people?
Absolutely. Don?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Jay?
Yeah, just a quick question, Julie. I'm assuming then that you would not want a report from the high school for that meeting and rather save it until August?
Well, we'll have our regular reports and such beginning in August,
Okay.
focused on returning back to school. And I'll work with board goals on who they want to attend. I think that it will not involve all the principals or anything, but you know, I don't know. They may want kosher there for some data. They, you know, or get some data from school administration before the meeting. So stay tuned for that. But I don't expect from the preliminary conversations we've had that it would involve principal attendance. So if you're on vacation, take it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I have one quick question for the board goals group. When are you guys planning on meeting again? Tomorrow night? And are you setting the agenda tomorrow night, or is that at a future meeting?
I can't imagine that we're going to be prepared to set the whole, well, maybe we will. I don't know. But if we're not going to set it, Chris, we would just make recommendations. And I imagine we'll get halfway there, and then maybe we can get you in on one of the meetings or something and then finalize it with you, if that's okay.
Well, that's kind of why I was asking. I can't make tomorrow night. I already made commitments with a customer, but if you set a future meeting that I can definitely meet with you guys.
I'm sure we're going to need more than just one. Don't y'all think so? Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. So we set our next meeting date, which is we need a motion to change our date. So a motion would be to move our next meeting to July 15th at 5 o'clock at the Abbey. Terry's the first, Peter's the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0 because Don has stepped away at the moment. Okay. Next up is executive session for an employee matter and for the superintendent evaluation. And we would invite in Julie for the employee matter.
Before we sign off, I'd just like to commend Dina for staying on all this time, being retired and all. I would have I would have lost my connection right after I gave my presentation. So commend her for
Chris-
that.
And Chris,
That's very kind of you, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. Inviting in Julie.
Have a nice night.
Devin's a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. And we're going to executive at 9. Okay, we're out of executive session at 9:27. We're going to have two motions. First one up is I'll accept a motion to terminate Paul Ladd for conduct unbecoming of a teacher. Peter's a first, Jen's a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. Next up is a motion to award superintendent a pay raise of a certain and to her contract. Devin's the first. Joanne's the second. Everybody in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries 8-0. Okay, and last but not least, I need a motion to adjourn. Terry,
moved.
then Peter's the second. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Motion carries 8-0 at 9:28.